This year, I met my husband at 49. God gave me a fantastic man. Only God could have given me that man. Sometimes, when you are believing God for something and you are waiting and waiting and waiting and it seems like it's not going to happen. And then God does it back to back. You are somewhat astonished. When Pastor Jerry says women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, receive your evidence.
Women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s that desire to wear their marital settlement. The sound of your amen, let it become your evidence.
Hold on to that word because it will surely come to pass. My birthday was in June last year, 50. And then I was in Abuja for work in October. I stayed coincidentally at the Nikon beside the M&M Event Center. So I just strolled in and I joined the prayer. And it was a Wednesday and I remember praying, God, have mercy on me. I will not go back to Lagos the same way I came. And I saw the seed. And to the glory of God, that month I conceived. And the journey was so smooth. Everything just went smoothly. God sent me helpers that I didn't even ask for. So I came to have my baby here and to the glory of God. In fact, while I was here, the mercies and favors that I received it's scary. God can be trusted. It may not happen when and how you want it, but God is never late. He's always on time. I was 51 this year. I met my husband at 49. God gave me a fantastic man. Only God could have given me that man. And to the glory of God, I gave birth to my evidence 5 weeks ago. I was sitting there listening to the other lady's testimony, and my friend was telling me, won't you go and give your testimony? I said I will do it online. She said, I'm sure you are one of those people that you would have been telling God, if you do this, I will come and give my testimony. And clearly, I must have said that at some point. And then I heard the other lady's testimony at 46. It was like God was saying, better just get up from your seat. I just want to thank the Lord because I don't even know where to start from. Because sometimes I look at myself, when I wake up at night, I look at her and sometimes tears just drop from my eyes because I don't even know how to thank God for what He has done for me. I'm so grateful to God.
My name is Miss Noni. I stumbled into Nsppd where somebody that had a small green car had an accident where a trailer hit on them. So I said, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. But then I didn't know what it was. So when I had a visitor, she was talking to me and I told her what I found in the internet. Then she told me it's Nsppd. Thank you, Dr. Ibu. So she gave me the link. Then I started praying about it. So from that 2022, then I will keep posting to my friends. One of them said to me, why you keep sending this to me? Where is your evidence? I said, I will keep sending it without evidence. When I had my daughter 19 years ago, she was born with heart problem called pulmonary stenosis. So as long as I know, I don't let her do strenuous things and I don't let her do exercise. I don't want a situation whereby they will call me and say, come. Something terrible has happened. So I avoided her doing anything, physical education. But when she got to high school, it was mandatory for her to do it. So they placed her on physical education. So she came back and she told me, I said, no, you're not doing it. So I went to the school and I said, no, my daughter is not going to do this. Then they said, why? I said, she has a heart problem. Then they said, no. Before they can excuse her, I have to go get a doctor's note. So in that case, I took her to the pediatric hospital in Austin. And there, they checked and checked. We stayed there for as long as she became anxious. She was asking her, is anything wrong? The lady said, the doctor is going to talk to you. We went to see the doctor, and the doctor said, I'm not going to see you guys anymore. I said, you just saw us now. She said, I'm not going to see you again. I said, no, she was born with it. She said, I can't see anything. So you got to go. So that was how hers was resolved. Then mine, I had what they call hyperprolactin. And at the same time, I had tumor in my pituitary gland for 25 years. So with the symptoms, I went to the doctor and I told the doctor, these are what I'm having. He said, before I can place you on a medication, I have to put you on an MRI. So they took me and I did the MRI. It was positive. I had tumor in my brain, in my pituitary gland. hence the discharge in my breast too. So they placed me on medication. I had medication for the longest. At one point, I'll get tired, I'll stop taking the medication, and I'll go back and forth. But then, God had finally gone ahead of me and healed me without me knowing. So last year, I went back to my doctor. I said, I need to go back and check my MRI on my pituitary gland. I want to see the stage, whether we are going up or going down. He said, okay, fine. So here goes. I went for the MRI, and they didn't see anything. These are all all the blessings I had from Nsppd. EL-ROI, our humongous God. He will keep doing great.
My name is Catherine Ogie. It was October 15th, 2022, when I took myself to the emergency room because I wasn't feeling all that good. My heart was weak. I was struggling to breathe. I was catching my breath. My legs were swollen. So when I got to the emergency room, they did an EKG on me, and the doctor said I had suffered a heart attack, which I didn't even know when that happened. So they did further tests. They now said that I had blood clots in my heart and in my lungs. I had enlarged heart. My blood sugar was over the roof. So at this point, they now took me by ambulance to the hospital. They kept me there for 7 days. They did an angiogram, and in the angiogram, it showed that I had 3 blocked arteries. I went to work a couple of days before this. I was like, I can't believe I was that sick. They fitted me with a heart defibrillator, so that, because they said that heart, not this heart, the heart could stop at any time. They sent me home with medications, but the more medications I took, the worse I got. As a matter of fact, I was not able to swallow my pills, so they said that we're going to have to perform surgery to enlarge, to open up my throat. Then when I eat, it doesn't digest. They said I had stomach paralysis. So for that test, they now said my ejection fraction was below 20%. What it means in English is that my blood doesn't flow to my organs. The organs were shutting down, and I had, the first thing was, they called it congestive heart failure. For that test, they now said I had H. pylori. So it means all the bacteria in Africa were living in my body. On Father's Day, June 18th, 2023, the surgeon took a look at me and said, "You're so young, you have life in you." And he said that even a bypass would not work for me. And he said it would be unfair of him to torture me with a bypass, that heart was only 15% alive. They sent me home to just go and put my affairs in order. But I knew that the God that I'm serving, the God on this fire altar, is a real God. Because many times Papa will call embolism. I don't even know how he knows the name. I cannot even call those names for real. He reversed. Then I had fluid on my entire heart. So the Lord told me to come and serve Nsppd Prayer 2024. I was at the back. I had my green shirt. For the first time in almost 2 years, I stood from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. I didn't collapse. I wasn't tired. So I knew then that my testimony was solid. So I went back home to do my MRI check and all of that. They did MRI like 3 times. They kept to step on the thing. I did stress tests. I did all the tests. So they called me after a week. They now said, your heart is not deceased anymore. They gave me 85% death sentence, but God gave me 100% promise of life. I want to say that the God on this altar is a for real God. I'm a child of the Most High King. Whatever God has done for me, He will do for each and every one, if only you will believe. What God cannot do does not exist.
My name is Glory Alexander, and this is my husband, Prince Charles Alexander. He's an American veteran, U.S. veteran. I've been a member of Nsppd since 2020, and God has been so marvelous. People around me, they can testify. Even when I give them the number, they will come back and tell me, thank you so much. Early December, after the prayers, I went to sleep and I saw Pastor Jerry in my dream. And we were talking. He asked me, where are you from? I said, I'm Efik, a Calabar woman. He said, wow, my wife too is an Efik. So he carried his hand and placed on my shoulder. And we walked. It was like the road was rough. And he tried to guide me, and I went through. I woke up. So on the 5th, 6th, my husband started throwing up. He was throwing up so bad. And he said I should go to church and thank God because it was a Thanksgiving day. And I went. I told my bishop too is an Nsppd and my pastor. I told them, I said, this is what happened. He said, please, take him to the hospital. He did not want to go. You know, before we went, I looked at him. He got up. He was throwing up. He threw up more than 20 times. So when he got up, I look at him. I see his face had twisted one side. The speech was slurred. And then the eyes were dilated. I told him, you have a stroke. He said, no. So when we got to the hospital, they were shouting, stroke alert, stroke alert, stroke alert. And that was how he was diagnosed with stroke. And not only stroke, they said he has an enlarged heart. The next thing, heart failure. The next thing, they said kidney disease, his kidney affected. The next thing, pre-diabetic, everything just turned round. The next thing is his legs, he could not walk again. Even the hem of my cloth cannot touch him. He would be screaming because he was not able to walk. The next thing, they diagnosed blood clot. Blood clot in both of his lungs and his legs. Pastor Jerry said, this sickness would not be unto death. And I grabbed it and held onto it. And then from there, God really turned things around. They called me one day and said, emergency surgery. They have to do surgery. I said, what is going on? They said, thrombectomy. I said, really? And I laid on the ground. I said, this earth, you will not receive my husband because I came here with nobody. And you said you are giving me a husband within 3 days. And it happened. So now, nothing can take him away. And I will not bury anybody. In the morning, he said he wants to go to VA. He was in the restroom. I took him. I supported him because he was not able to walk. I supported him to the restroom. And the next thing, he gave up. He died. I checked, I'm a nurse. I checked the pulse was not there. Nothing was there. He was seated on the bathtub. There's no way to lower him down because the top was at the back and the rail of the top. So I cannot, as he's tall, and you know, when somebody passed, it's heavy. He was so heavy that I could not lay him down. I could not. The only thing I did was I was screaming, hey Roy, hey Roy, hey Roy, hey Roy, show me mercy. Hey Roy, show me mercy. And I was patting his back, patting his chest until he came up again. I told him, he said, what happened? I said, hold this place. Because I wasn't with the phone and nobody was in the house with me. I was just by my side. The only person that was with me that day was Roy.
Also, Pastor Jerry did say about blood clots. And that was a major factor also, the reason why my healing. You know, a lot of things you don't, living here in America, a lot of things you don't understand about God, to be truthful, living in America. But with people like Pastor Jerry and the whole Nsppd family, worldwide, I just thank God, for such a wonderful spirit of a man who follows the Lord. Amen.
So after the thrombectomy, the surgery that they did, they asked him, he has to come back and they will check him to see if the blood clot had cleared because they had to suction the cloth from the lungs. And they said they are going to test him because he was on the wheelchair. He could not walk again. His eyes were dilated. When he's lying down, the eyes will be open. Today, he can walk. He was not able to eat. Before he eat, they have to blend the food and make it puree. But now, he can swallow very well.
I can also dance, so.
He can dance, so. They said, okay, he has to come back for them to check that he's okay, that the lungs are clear. They said they will give him 15 minutes to walk, but he was able to walk 45 minutes.
My God.
Which means he's clear. Nothing missing.
Nothing broken.